Okay, everybody, so we're going to begin. This is again Module 9, and we're going to talk about the reading the Rogers Innovation Decision Process. So it's kind of interesting because, they first begin talking in Rogers about the idea of a change agent and how this person works and, what their job is. And you start to realize that there is that, people like me who spent, 30 years in technology, sales and marketing and management and things like that, those are your change agents, especially in companies like Ford, where a lot of your innovation, according to Utterback, and we read this, a couple of modules ago, page 95 and 96, if you don't remember. Utterback says most of the innovation within specific phase companies comes from the outside, comes from suppliers. So those are, when you're talking about technology, you're talking about your technology vendors. And this is where I spent most of my life. So when I read this chapter, I thought, wow, that sounds a lot like the sales process. And in fact, that is what it is. And we'll go through in a couple of slides. You'll see the different roles of people, and the different types of people that you need at different stages of the sales process or the innovation decision process. So these are very similar cycles. And it's very clear that the technology vendors have read this material and have very carefully orchestrated how a sale takes place and the different resources that are available. So we'll go through that so that you can recognize where these people, have their role and how this, starts to take effect. So the beginning of the innovation decision process, and this is optional, is one of the things that's highlighted here, meaning that it doesn't have to happen. So there isn't an authority figure saying you've got to do this. It's not collective. We're saying we're looking at this individually and we're making a decision. So this is optional. So prior conditions are, we have either a need. Or we have a personal sense of innovativeness where, gosh, I'm wondering if there's a better way of doing this. Social norms potentially that are impacting our desire for knowledge. And this knowledge, generally speaking, comes from some sort of mass media. So mass media could be television, it could be emails, it could be conferences, something that isn't directed specifically at an individual. This is our mass media, and a lot of our knowledge comes from mass media. Once the knowledge, clicks on something and we're saying, gosh, maybe this is something we should do, maybe this is something interesting that my company could do, we move into that persuasion stage where we start to look at, Rogers, the characteristics of an innovation diffusion process, which is that relative advantage, right? Can I see that this is going to help me? This is a good thing for me or for my company. Is this compatible with our culture? Do we have anything against this? Will this fit in what we're doing? Is it, and like we've talked about this, especially with technology, it's not necessarily going to be the same way that we're doing things now. So that's not necessarily what compatibility is about. Compatibility is more about, is there something within our organization that's going to push back really hard against this? Complexity, does this seem like something we can pick up? Trialability, can we see it? Can we try it? And observability, what are we looking at in our environment that tells us that this is a good idea? Then we move into where the change agent, begins to be very important. And I would argue that that interpersonal side of it is really where the change agent starts. So when you're talking about technology vendors, they're very involved from the very beginning of this process. So that email came from, the company. There's a mass amount of phone calls, telemarketing and stuff that happened during that mass media phase. So thinking that this is happening sort of, without any help is naive. They're definitely helping. Microsoft ads, Google ads on TV, this is the way you should be doing something. So to me, change agents actually get involved way before now, but for sure within the innovation decision process, at that decision point, you're going to need a change agent to help you. And change agents can also be, we'll talk about this, people within the company that are more innovative and things like that. Those are more considered champions though, and we'll discuss that. So anyway, at the decision process, we're deciding between two things. Are we going to adopt it or are we going to reject it? And then from that, we get to implementation where, okay, let's say we're going to adopt it. Now we've got to get it into our system and try it out and see what happens. The implementation stage, we have either continued adoption or we have discontinuance. So we can try it out, we see if it works in our environment, and we can reject it afterwards. And then confirmation is really where the system becomes part of our environment and no longer has a separate identity as a new system. This is no longer something new, this is just the way we do it now. So the questions, of course, associated with that are, are very specific, within that persuasion stage. What are the innovation's consequences? Do I need to worry about this? At the implementation stage, where do I get it? How do I use it? So we're getting to, more specific questions. We're getting deeper and deeper into the potential adoption of the innovation. And so we need more information about how it works. Let's see. Okay. So selective exposure is one of those things where this is a compatibility piece. It is, we only see what we want to see. So things that are incompatible with our beliefs, we ignore. It might, oh, no, that would never work here. We would never allow that to happen or this to happen or whatever. So we have things that are biases, right? So that status quo bias is kicking in here and saying this is not something that we're going to be okay with. And so we might as well ignore it because it's never going to get anywhere in our organization. Needs come first in some applications, so a pesticide for a new bug. So I'm not going to need a pesticide unless I have this bug that I've never seen before and none of my current, methods are working on it. So now I need something else. So I'm going to go look for something. I need some knowledge. I need to understand. Sometimes the innovation comes first, right? But we don't necessarily need it, and it's tougher to get it in if the innovation comes first. So Henry Ford and the faster horse, we talked about that earlier. He said if I asked people what they really needed, they would have said a faster horse. They didn't come up with, I need an automobile. So, but once the innovation is there, the observability is there, and people can see, wow, that guy's going much faster than me. He's got a car and I've got a horse. So you're able to see how this innovation is impacting others and decide, gosh, should I look into this? Is this something that I need to look into? On the other hand, things like the iPod and the iPhone, those were things that, we saw the different types of curve. So while the automobile might have had an S curve because there would have been less and less adoption, the iPhone and the iPod had those R curves, right? So the minute somebody saw it, they're like, wow, this is really neat. Let's try this out. And that adoption, took off right away. Now, Apple, of course, thought about that, right? They wanted to make sure that these things were easy to use so that R curve was what they were going for. They knew that a new innovation, nobody had ever seen anything like this. Nobody had any idea how to use it, so it needed to be easy to figure out. In the innovation decision process, we're motivated to reduce uncertainty about ideas and innovation. So that's the whole idea behind the diffusion of innovation. That process that we go through is we're very uncertain about something that we've never seen before, that we've never used, and so we're trying to reduce that uncertainty through knowledge and trials and observability. We want to get from I'm afraid, I don't like this, to oh wow, this looks really neat, let's try it out. And that's it for this this section. Thanks.